Okay, so today we're going to continue section 7.2. This is going to be the word problems part of 7.2, and honestly, once you get the word problem part over with and you set up your proportions, it's going to be the exact same thing as yesterday, and then it's actually going to be the easiest kind of proportions that you were solving yesterday. So before we get into our 3 examples, if we're going to write a proportion to represent a word problem, the biggest thing that you have to understand is you have to stay consistent, okay? And what I mean by that is whenever we're talking about these word problems and we're representing a proportion, we're going to be talking about 2 different types of values. So maybe we're going to talk about how much money you make per hour, okay? So whenever you write your proportion, it doesn't matter if you want to write how much you make over how many hours you worked, or if you want to put how many hours you worked over how much you make, as long as you do the same thing on both sides of your proportion, okay? So consistency is going to be a big thing today, okay? And that may not mean a whole lot now. Once we get into our word problems, hopefully it'll make a little more sense. So number 1 says a typist types an essay of 1,260 words in 15 minutes. How long would it take for her to type 2,100 words? So I said we were usually talking about 2 different types of values. In this case, what are my 2 different values or units, or what are we talking about here? Words and minute, right? So like I said, it doesn't matter if you want to put number of words over number of minutes, or if you want to put minutes over words, as long as you stay consistent on both sides of your proportion. So since words comes first, like I said, it doesn't matter. For this problem, we're going to represent this as words over minutes. And this is how we're going to represent this problem the entire time, okay? Both sides of the proportion. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one case where we know that she types an essay of 1,260 words in 50 minutes. So that case, I could represent as 1,260 over 15. The number of words over the number of minutes that it took her. Okay, if it's a proportion, this is going to have to be set equal to another ratio. Okay, so if I keep reading, it says how long would it take for her to type 2,100 words? Okay, now remember, I'm looking for something, so I am going to have a variable here, but you have to stay consistent, right? So if this is 2,100 words on the right-hand side of my proportion, is this going to go in the numerator or the denominator? The numerator. So 2,100 words. I'm looking for how long or how many minutes would it take her, okay? And then once you have your proportion set up, like I said, this is probably the easier than the proportions you guys solved yesterday. So if I multiply up and across, I have 1,260x equals, and when you multiply 15 times 2,100, you get 31,500. And how would you solve for x? Very good. Divide by 1,260. And just for time purposes, when you solve that, you get 25 minutes. It would take her 25 minutes to type 2,100 words, assuming she's typing at the same rate. Make sense? Okay, hopefully today won't be too bad. Number 2, Kara earns $1,020 for, no, it's supposed to be $10.20. That would be a heck of a job, huh? Me too. Sorry, $10.20 for 3 hours of work. That's a major difference, huh? Okay. How much would she earn for 5 hours working for the same pay rate? So this time, what 2 quantities, what 2 values, what 2 units are we talking about here? Okay, you want to do hours over how much money she makes, okay? I think it's good to actually write this. That way you can refer back to it instead of just guessing, or hopefully this is right. So just write this out. So we're going to do hours over money. Once again, if you want to do money over hours, that's fine as long as you stay consistent. So if I go through here, it says that she earns $10.20 for 3 hours of work. So using this that we talked about, how would you express $10.20 for 3 hours of work as a ratio. Luke?
3 over 10.20.
Very good. 3 over 10.20. 3 hours, she gets paid $10.20. Okay, on the right-hand side, I want to know how much would she earn for 5 hours. So where does that 5 go? In the numerator. We're looking for how much would she get paid. Okay, and then we would go through, multiply up and across. So I would have 3x equals, and then 1020 times 5 is 51. Divide both sides by 3, and that goes in evenly. She would get paid $17. $17. Okay, any questions so far? Pretty easy, hopefully. Okay, I want you guys to try number 3. I want you guys to try to set up your proportion, read through the problem, decide what your units are going to look like, what your ratios will look like, set up your proportion, and then stop, and we'll check our proportions together, and then I'll let you guys solve them. Okay, so like I said, it doesn't matter. You guys may have come up with different proportions, but it should be equivalent at least. Who can tell me what their proportion looked like to represent this problem? Bella?
$940 over 75 is equal to x over 120.
Very good. What? X over 120. Do we agree? We have $940 over 75 shares. I want to know how much money for 120 shares. So Bella represented this as money over shares. Like I said, if you wanted to do shares over money, it wouldn't matter. So go ahead, cross multiply, set them equal to each other, and then go ahead and solve. All right, hopefully when you cross multiply, we get 75x equals 112,800. Divide both sides by 75. And it tells me that 120 shares of the same stock would cost $1,504. Do you agree? Mm-hmm. Any questions on any of these?